Innovation is one of the key catalysts for the economic recovery, but only if senior management protects and supports it, rather than cut it or even eliminate it. How do you ensure senior management sees and appreciates the value from innovation? And just as important, sees you as a key contributor to the innovation agenda. I'll be right back.
This is the Killer Innovations Podcast with Phil McKinney. Keep in mind that the information and opinions expressed in this podcast are Phil's, and Phil's alone, and they don't necessarily reflect those of his past, current, or future employers. Now, here's Phil McKinney.
Let's face it, we are facing some really tough market conditions, but this too will pass. And innovation is one of those key catalysts that it's going to allow us to get out of this recession and get back to the economic growth. And let's face it, recessions will come in the future. This is not the last recession that will ever happen. Now, the important thing here is that leaders today need to understand that innovation is critical for the economic recovery. However, leadership is not as common as you think. There's a difference between being a leader and showing leadership. And leadership is not that common. Proof is in the number of emails I'm getting from listeners. I'm getting emails from listeners asking me to talk to their senior management to convince them not to eliminate the innovation programs, or I'm getting emails from listeners to mentor them because their innovation team got eliminated and they're finding themselves out on the street. Now, it's easy to blame senior management for, quote, not getting it. The real question is the value you're delivering evident to your manager and their manager on and on up the chain of the executives? I'm going to guess not. There is this belief that management should just trust that innovation is important and that innovation will have some future impact. The fact is that you need to show the value. You need to show the benefit. And most importantly, you need to show the impact to your organization. If you do this, senior executives with half a brain will support and protect the innovation efforts and, more importantly, protect you. If you can do this, you will have created a resilient innovation team, a team that can survive the downturn in the markets and therefore be in the best position to help your organization succeed when the recovery does happen. So, how do you show the value from innovation? There's lots of ways to do this. One of the key ways that I have found to be extremely helpful is through clearly defined metrics and measurements. Senior management gets the whole innovation fuzzy, creativity, kind of leave the guys alone, and that's kind of this perception that everybody has around innovation. Innovation can be measured. It can be measured to the point where even the financial wizards inside your organization can appreciate the value and the impact. It does require, though, that you put together the process and the metrics to ensure that you can not only measure it, track it, but also show the impact. The key here is not just any metrics, but metrics that prove the value. So what's this approach? How do you show the value and the impact? Here's a quick, simple set of steps, and then I'm going to go through what the actual metrics could be. First off, benchmark yourself. Go collect the data about all the metrics that I'm going to give you here in a little bit about your own organization. Benchmark yourself. Next, benchmark your competitors. Understand where you stack up with your competitors. It's not just about share price and revenue. Understand the innovation benchmarks, how your competitors are doing against yourself. Once you've done that, once you've benchmarked yourself and you've benchmarked your competitors, identify the gaps. Where are your competitors better than you? Where are you better than your competitors? And where are you on a parity basis? Now, where you have gaps, where your competitors are better than you, then you need to develop plans to eliminate the gap. So again, benchmark yourself, benchmark your competitors, identify the gaps, and then develop plans to eliminate the gaps. So what do you benchmark? Well, it's different for every industry. So I'm just going to give you a sample set, but they're different for every industry. First off, you need to understand the revenue. You need to understand the gross margin. Why is gross margin important? I'm a firm believer that gross margin is a great measurement from the impact of innovation. The theory being is that if you build a better mousetrap, your customers will give you a margin premium for a better innovation. They'll give you an additional improvement in the overall gross margin. Next is operating profit. Ultimately, that comes down to how much money actually sticks to your fingers when everything is accounted for. And then last but not least is the R&D spend. Now, many of you will have this information at a very high level for your organization, with your revenue, with your gross margin, your operating profit, and your R&D spend. But what you really need to do is to do that for every product line within your organization. Now, I'm imagining you're sitting here going, oh my God, how do I do that? Do you know how many products we have in our organization? Believe me, I probably have more products than you do. You need to do this at every product line, because otherwise you get into this peanut butter effect. You're trying to define what's the right dials to twist and turn for the right level of innovation impact, but you're only dealing at a very high level information. You need to do the work. It's heavy lifting. It's hard work. You may not have exact information. You may need a ballpark it a little bit, but you need to get it down to every product line. And you need one additional piece of information, and that is the CAGR, the compounded annual growth rate for every product line. So revenue, gross margin, operating profit, R&D spend, for every product line, and including the CAGR rate, the compound annual growth rate. Now, some other pieces of information that you may want to look at, depending on your organization, is things like R&D labor costs. How much labor is the component piece of your overall R&D spend? And look at your competitors. Are you on parity with them? Are you heavy on labor, or are you light on labor? Look at IP creation, number of patents. Now, I'm not a big believer that patents are an indicative measurement of innovation, but in some companies, such as pharmaceuticals, other kinds of industries, IP creation is critically important for the long-term success, where they have a great track record of translating patents into products. It may be a good proxy for you. You should consider it. And then last, the idea funnel. How many new ideas are coming in? How many ideas get killed? How many ideas get completed, meaning they go through the entire process and result in products going on the shelf? And for every one of those completed products, capturing the testimonials from customers and from the organization, and then measuring the impact. So again, understand the revenue, gross margin, operating profit, and R&D for every product, including the CAGR rate. Possibly you could look at labor cost, you could look at IP creation, such as patents, and you can measure your idea funnel. How many ideas are coming in? How many get killed? How many get completed? Now, once you've got this data, you need to look at the ratios. So, for instance, one key ratio that we use is gross margin to R&D. So, for every dollar of R&D, what is the return against gross margin? Now, the key here is you have to do this by life cycle. This is where the compounded annual growth rate comes in. Products that are in the decline side of your life cycle. So keep in mind, let me back up here. What do I mean by life cycle? Life cycle really has 4 segments. The real emerging, the very, very early stuff. You think it's going to be impactful, potentially has very high growth rate, but the very, very early stuff. The next segment is kind of the growth. It's got good CAGR rates. It's growing at a pretty good rate. Once you cross over the top of the hump, you're now on the decline side, meaning that the CAGR rate is actually starting to shrink. And then the absolute far end of it is really the milk run or the end-of-lifing kind of categories for products where the market segment is pretty much getting eliminated, or people are transitioning to a whole new segment or a whole new capability. So we look at gross margin to R&D by life cycle. So for instance, products that are way off to the right, meaning they're way in the decline, meaning segments that are actually getting eliminated or replaced by other types of capabilities, that's what we call the milk run. So therefore, the actual gross margin you're getting should be fairly high from the standpoint of not a lot of R&D spend going in. So your R&D to gross margin productivity will show up pretty high. Likewise, in emerging segments and emerging areas, your gross margin to R&D will actually look fairly low. And in that case, the reason is that you're spending a lot of R&D. Now, what you're looking for is things that obviously stand out, where you're way overspending R&D in relation to something that's at the end of its life cycle, or you're significantly underspending in R&D into new and emerging categories. This is another example where you want to avoid doing the peanut butter approach. You can't look at R&D gross margin by product and then prioritize them, because what you'll do is you will eliminate all new innovations because the gross margin to R&D will look way too small. So, look at it by segments, understand how the numbers play out, and then see how your competitors stack up against you. What is the norm for your industry? Those that are the leaders of your industry, meaning they're hitting their revenue, operating profit, shareholders are rewarding them for shareholder share price improvement. What is it they're doing? How can you apply it to what you're doing? How do you stack up? So gross margin to R&D is one critical segment. We call it the R&D productivity metric, and we use it in order to understand making sure that we don't overspend or underspend R&D into the right product segments. Next up is the R&D per engineer. This, again, lays out and understands, are you overspending in labor or are you underspending in labor? Are you overspending on the R&D or underspending the R&D? The other is patents per employee. And last is the revenue gross margin impact by age and introduction. So, in this case, how much of gross margin is being resulted in the business with products that have been introduced in the last 12 months, within the last 24 months, within the last 36 months? You would assume, under normal conditions, that products that are newer to the market will return a higher gross margin than products that have been in the market for 2 or 3 years, therefore allowing competitors to come in and respond and come up with their own products to come into that segment. So, understanding what is the revenue and gross margin impact by age of introduction for the product line. Now, for all of this, the key here is go back. Now, unless you've really been on the ball and you've collected up all this data and you have it and you've been tracking it and you've been reporting it, if you have, you are in the top 1% of all companies that are out there. So the odds are 99% of the time you don't have this data and you have not been reporting it. So go back 3 years. Has it improved over those 3 years? Can you legitimately take credit? Have you had the innovation programs in place long enough? Has the projects that you've been working on had an impact? If so, how and why? How did you have the impact, and why did the impact results show up? So go back 3 years, and has it improved? The next question is what plans do you have to improve it going forward? Now, this is actually one step that you can take. If you have not had an innovation programs in place and you haven't been measuring it, go back 3 years and look and see where you're at today, and then lay out plans on how you're going to improve it. How are you going to improve it, and why are the steps that you are taking going to give you the results that you're projecting? So again, go back 3 years using the metrics and using the ratios. Go back 3 years. Has it improved? And can you legitimately take credit for it? How has it improved? And why did you see the improvements? What was the results? And then, what plans do you have to improve it going forward? How are you going to do it? Why are those the right ones? And what do you project out as being the impact from that processes or from those focus areas that you're looking at to try to improve the overall innovation value back to the organization? Now, let's not forget, one of the areas that management's going to be looking for is how do you stack up against the industry? So if you've looked at this and said, okay, I've gone back 3 years, I can see where I'm at, and I can see my plans, now go back, do the same for your competitors. How do you stack up to everyone else in the industry? And if you're trailing, how are you going to eliminate the gap? If you're ahead, what do you need to do to keep the lead? My overall point around this is that innovation can be measured. And measurement is one of the key components to surviving in these economic challenging times when all the turmoil is going on and people can't understand what's happening and how's it going to impact you or how's it going to impact your organization. Having a set of metrics that can be measured and looked to, that you can look back historically with strong plans going forward, is key during these economic times. And by having the fact that you put in place that innovation can be measured, management can see the impact. If the impact is consistent, then your innovation efforts will be resilient to the economic turmoil, and management will see it as a key asset or a key capability for the turnaround. So what if you're trying to start an innovation team during these economic times? Now, in some cases, people are maybe looking at you and go, are you like crazy? Are you like out of your mind? This is not the time. I would say it is. It's actually the perfect time. So what do? Don't give up. It can be done. Do the benchmark. Look at your competitors. Look at yourself and show where you stack up. And then the question becomes then is putting together a plan or proposal to management that says, if you just met at the industry benchmarks across all of these ratios, what would be the impact to your organization? What could the impact be if management got behind an innovation program? Create a future view. Create a story that management can understand, and understand that if we put a management program and put an innovation program and teams in place, what that impact could be. Now, if you're managing an innovation team today, if you're in a leadership position or you were a member of an innovation team, work with your team to establish the metrics with your manager, report out regularly, show improvement against your competitors, be relentless. Now, we tend to think about the innovation or creativity teams as kind of being, right brain, kind of fuzzy, and operations being left side. This is the time you need to get your left side of your brain engaged. You need to be relentless. You need to set up an operational process. Set the bar high. Set the metrics high, and then help your team achieve it. Now, most importantly, if you are an individual, given the current economic times, people are getting nervous. People are going to wonder, wow, this innovation thing may not get supported. My position may get eliminated. How do you show your own individual value? Here are some key questions that you should be able to answer, and you should put it in succinctly such that when your management team looks to you and asks you questions, you can explain your value from the standpoint of the innovations that you've delivered. So some of the questions are, how many ideas have you submitted? How many ideas have you actually created that resulted in something? What's been the impact for those? What creative contributions to other projects? So where have other project teams come to you because you're viewed as being highly innovative and highly creative? What were your contributions to those projects? Have you trained and taught others how to be more creative, how to use innovation processes, how to use tools and tricks to come up with better ideas? Have you trained and taught others? Have you mentored people within your organization? Have you created an innovation proposal for management? Have you put together a pitch either around an idea, or if you're an individual within an organization and there is no innovation team in place, have you gone to your management team and pitched the idea of putting together an innovation proposal, putting together a team that's focus is to create an innovation culture, bring together those processes, and help your organization be more innovative? Now, again, many cases, people are saying, oh my God, why would you want to do that in these current economic times? We're cutting, shrink. We're focusing on trying to get through to the other side. We're all focusing a lot of efforts on trying to estimate when the recovery will kick in and when everybody will be back on the growth curve. Now is absolutely the perfect time. Why? Because odds are your competitors are so freaked out. They've gone into kind of a hibernation mode when it comes to creativity, when it comes to innovation, when it comes to their R&D. Now's the time to step in, unleash the creativity of your people, get the pipeline filled, and get ready to deliver products such that when the recovery does happen, you're in the best position to win. Now, ultimately, we have to recognize that these are tough times. Your ability to show that how you're bringing innovation value to your organization will allow you to stand out and prosper, even in these tough economic times. Thanks for listening to this week's podcast. Please send your feedback to podcast@killerinnovations.com. Please send thoughts about this show, ideas for future shows, or just let me know how you're using the podcast in your day-to-day job or within your organization. I recently updated my speech schedule so that you can know where I'm going to be around the world, and hopefully we can find time to get together. Most recently, I was in New York and had a chance to meet with some listeners of the podcast, along with having some of the podcast listeners actually visit with me here in California while they were on business trips. If you find yourself coming to California, please drop me an email and let me know, and I'll do everything in my power to work the schedule so that we can get together. If you want to talk to other listeners of the podcast, join the communities over at LinkedIn. We do have a LinkedIn group for the Killer Innovations group, along with a group on Facebook. Also, don't forget to vote for your favorite podcast. It's the best way to tell the producers of your favorite content that you truly do appreciate the time and efforts. So wherever you get all of your podcast content, remember each month to go back, vote, give them feedback, and let others know that you do appreciate that content. Also, as you know, the main motivator for me doing this podcast is to pay it forward based on the mentoring and the support I got early on in my career. And all I ask is that you pay it forward. Tell others about the podcast, point them to the site, forward them the link, point them to iTunes, wherever it is you get your podcast, and encourage others to get the benefit also. With that, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.